To focus on an audience or not focus on an audience? That's today's question for you as a family history writer. Should you have a specific audience in mind as you turn your genealogy research into a published family history book? According to an article via the Writing Center at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, keeping your audience in mind while you write can help you make good decisions about what material to include, how to organize your ideas, and how to best support your argument. According to an article via the Writing Center at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, to define your audience, it helps to think about things like age, sex, education, economic status, social positions, and so forth. This advice is propagated throughout the how to write a book sphere. But are they dishing out correct information? Perhaps the answer lies in whether or not you, like I, have published any family history books. Did you write for a specific, well-defined audience when you began? Howdy, I'm Devin Noel-Lee, the author of a memoir, 2 published family histories, 60 scrapbooks, and 120 drafts in the process of becoming books. My goal on Write Your Family History is to help you quickly write non-boring family histories to share your legacy with your loved ones. Writing a family history is a way to process all the details we gather as we build our family tree and identify individuals. As you see how the puzzle pieces fit together, we discover the stories can be common story arcs of rags to riches, riches to rags, quest, strategy, and so forth. While we think we know the arc a story will take, it's only after we process all of the gathered data and combine it with historical context that the true tale comes to the surface. For example, I thought I knew my great-grandmother's story so well. She was married and had 5 children. One died in infancy. That's all there is to it, right? Instead, as I processed all the documents of her life, I found a different story than I had anticipated. I discovered she had a great capacity to love. Her first fiance died before they got married. Her should-have-been mother-in-law remained a constant part of her life after the fiance died. The mother-in-law encouraged her to date and then marry my great-grandfather. After marrying, they had 4 children and named one after the deceased fiance. Her children and grandchildren have fond memories of her, which shows that despite her heartaches and losses, she had a great capacity to love. That observation was not clear at the beginning of writing her story. It bubbled to the surface as I wrote her first draft. Once I knew her underlying story arc, I could then revise the story to make that more clear. But if we shortchange the writing process by aiming towards a specific audience, the true tale remains hidden. I came across this article by writer David B. Clear, which offered a contradictory approach. As an individual writer, forget about target audiences. Don't try to meet other people's expectations. If you do, then you'll end up torturing yourself into a warped and misshapen writer, a distorted writer that doesn't really appeal to anyone. Now, before you dive into who David is, my question is, does he have a point? Yes. Yes, he does. It's no mean feat to write over 120 biographical sketches about my ancestors in 1 year, but I did it. Mind you, all of these sketches are still in the draft form, with 2 sitting on my shelf as finished projects. If I hadn't started the Family History Fanatics and Write Your Family History YouTube channels, I would have plenty of time to turn those drafts into books. In the year before I challenged myself to write all of those drafts, I researched how to write family histories and how to write a book for any genre. Whenever I encountered what the expert said earlier, my writing didn't progress. The ideas remained stuck in my head. In short, instead of making progress completing the first draft about my ancestors, I would do as David said. Come up with an idea and then let it go because I decided it's of no interest to my target audience. He was correct when he said that doing this made writing feel like a dreaded homework assignment rather than a fun journey. Before I heard of his lament, I felt it, and I decided to lean into my contrarian nature and ignore any potential audience while drafting my family histories. Instead, I developed my record-by-record, sentence-by-sentence method of turning documents into paragraphs and paragraphs into stories. And within 1 year, I had 120 stories that were boring but complete. Now I can spend my free time, or rather the time I will have in 6 years when my youngest son graduates, making those factual snooze fests into something my family really enjoys reading. Only then will I consider my audience to know what type of book I will write. Children's picture book, young adult chapter book, adult nonfiction, or academic methodological analysis. Before we continue, if I've given you value during this video, please click the like button, share this video with others, and leave a comment. And then, since you've done something for me, let me do something for you. Check the helpful links in the description box for more ways to write your family history today. When we write a memoir or a family history, we need to know what materials we have to work with. Thus, we need to unlock the memories for our memoirs, conduct better family history interviews, or again, take our documents and turn them into sentences and paragraphs. When I wrote my pageant memoir, I had one thing in mind: sharing my personal history so that future generations would know why I competed in pageants and wanted to be a beauty queen. While writing about Lewis Sherman or Joseph Geisler, I aimed to transform names, dates, and places into a readable story. I hope people who read about our common ancestors will understand their lives. While it's okay to have goals in mind, you will discover as you write about yourself or your ancestors that you do not really know where a story will go until you finish the first draft. Another roadblock that happens when you choose an audience before writing a draft is we criticize the language we use. We tend to filter out jargon and worry about poor word choice. We worry about the semantics and how we explain things, instead of capturing the raw event. But when we ignore the audience initially, we'll write something rough, like this. I stood on the pageant stage in the ballroom, in the pageant stance, waiting for the announcer to say, "Ladies, turn for the judges." After I did my turn, I exited stage right and huddled with the other delegates until it was time for a lineup. After the lineup, we returned backstage and prepared for the next competition segment. While backstage, I had to fight the butt glue on my swimsuit to get out of the clothing and into my evening gown and accessories. If you have watched or attended a pageant, you have some idea of what all of those details mean. However, some of you have next to no idea what I'm talking about. When I revise this section, I can explain the terms. I can show what I was doing rather than just telling. As I write in more context and describe the setting, I can share what I saw, wore, heard, and even where my parents sat and how I felt. Be aware that those details typically come to the surface once you write the first starter paragraph. But if you worry whether a child should learn about how I enhanced my figure to the illusion of an hourglass figure, I probably wouldn't have even gotten as far as I did in the earlier example. Thus, we should record raw memories in our first draft and worry about the appropriate audience later. The second reason why you need to ignore your audience is that you judge your experience, thoughts, and feelings. You suddenly have writer's block because your memory and mind says, "I don't trust you to have this memory and record it in its raw form. Forget it. You're getting no more help from me." That's not helpful. Instead, we need to avoid judging or using presentism while writing. Otherwise, we will not capture the correct story. While these examples relate to memories, you should recognize how they apply to family histories. I won a local pageant and advanced to the state finals. I received a prize package and had a pageant director who was supposed to help me prepare for state. She was also supposed to be my biggest fan, beside my parents. In this pageant system, the director took other delegates from the local event, whether they were finalists or not, to the state pageant. Typically, these delegates know that the winner gets the best time, money, energy, and resources from the pageant director. Everybody else gets varying degrees of assistance depending on how well they schmooze the director. In short, the local winner takes precedence. However, that was not my experience. Not only did I not receive preferential treatment, I felt unwanted. Was I right to feel this way? Had I done something that I didn't realize to receive this neglect? Perhaps there's more to the story. But here's the point. This is what I felt and believed at the time, and it played a negative role in my performance during the state competition. If I choose an audience while drafting that story, I would spend so much time wondering if my feelings were valid or if there was another side to the story. By so doing, my brain locks away any further assistance and said, I'm not sharing anything more with you. We're done. More importantly, when I revealed the outcome of the state finals and my reaction, if I didn't write the raw emotions of what I felt, you won't see the internal conflict of the story, and the ultimate story lacks a compelling reason to read it. In these examples I just shared, focusing on the audience while writing created mental blocks, or rather, writer's block. You will likely do the following if you focus on the audience while drafting. Criticizing yourself for being incomplete or childish. Judge your memories or stories as unfair or wrong. And fixate on using language a particular audience prefers rather than accumulate the stories. Do you see these writing roadblocks in what I just shared? What should you do instead? David invites us to get out of our heads and write with these specific actions. If you enjoy humor, don't squash your lighthearted tone to appeal to some arbitrary, humorless target audience. If you want to share personal stories, don't abolish personal anecdotes trying to find readers who will never care about your life. And as family historians, people care about your life. If you want to write a long piece, don't cut them short trying to capture an audience with a 5-second attention span. Can you see how identifying a target audience as you start writing your family history will stop the creative juices? And if you chastise your memories, your inner self won't trust you to capture and value them for what they're worth. Thus, your memories will stop flowing because they feel betrayed. While my invitation is to ignore your audience initially, there is a time and place to select your ideal reader. Write and curate your tales until you have written everything you can think to say. After you compile all of your stories, then you can review what you have and answer the following questions. Would young children benefit from the stories? Would teenagers and adults be capable of handling the intensity of these topics? Would a public audience benefit from your personal stories or the stories of your ancestors? Do you want to discuss how you came about the research you found? Does your audience want the entire story or just a segment? Do you have numerous photos and scanned documents? What social context is available for the story? How much social context does your audience need to understand their ancestors' stories? Notice how you rarely have answers to these questions until you can review the text you have created. But after you have an idea of the types of stories you have, you can begin developing and enhancing your writing. To sum up, the experts are correct that your audience does matter when you're writing. However, when it comes to writing family histories, their timing is a little bit off. Ignore your audience in the drafting phase. Choose an audience during the developmental revision phase of writing. It's time now to go and do your homework. Then come back and get some feedback and support. Off you go.